It's your boy Eddie Steady 214. If you don't know, now you know.
Already is. Hamas and Islamic Jihad rockets streaking across the sky from Gaza. Sirens ringing out, warning Israelis to take cover. The Iron Dome intercepting as many incoming projectiles as possible. The punishing retaliation of an air assault on Gaza targets by Israeli forces, pushing the casualty count higher with each cycle. Dimming the hopes for de-escalation of violence and exposing the harsh reality of a long-standing conflict boiling over into rage once again. What started as a flashpoint for threatened evictions of Palestinian families from the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood of East Jerusalem and clashes at the Al-Aqsa Mosque is now a conflict that the UN Special Envoy to the Middle East says is escalating towards an all-out war. Israel calling it reservists and moving tanks and heavy artillery to the Gaza border, refusing to rule out a ground offensive. Defense Minister Benny Gantz making clear Israel has...
Hamas militants say they fired hundreds of rockets towards Tel Aviv in retaliation for Israeli airstrikes, including one that destroyed this here 12-story residential block in the Gaza Strip. Video footage shows the tower housing an office used by Hamas leaders collapsing. Israel deployed more than 80 jets to bomb Gaza and massed tanks on the border as rocket barrages hit Israeli towns. The latest violence has killed dozens of civilians in Gaza and at least 3 Israelis.
What's up with it? We are back. This is It Needs to Be Said. And we're back. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully your day's going good. Let's talk about it. Pakistan. Let's start off with Pakistan. No. Let's start off with what is the worst tragedies that you could ever deal with? There's hurricane, there's tornado. That's why I started this video off with It Needs to Be Said, episode 2. I talked about a lot of bad weather, a lot of stuff with the war. And right now, this is months later, and we're dealing with the same thing. Different, though. I want to start this episode off with what's the top 10 worst catastrophes that you could ever deal with? Worst in weather. What's the worst weather of all time? And it's a reason why I want to do that, and because you probably wouldn't know. You probably wouldn't know what is the worst top 10 of weather that you have to deal with. But it's really unbelievable. What the worst weather You'd be surprised. It's not a hurricane, not a typhoon. You'd be very surprised on what it is. See if I can't pull that up. I may just have to go in and tell you. I don't want to waste no time. Okay, here we go. Top 10 weather disasters. Okay.
Nature has the ability to humble human beings. Even with huge advances in science and technology, extreme weather events and tectonic shifts can prove too great for people to overcome. Though it's rare, nature will occasionally unleash a terrible malady upon an unsuspecting community. From ancient earthquakes to vicious cyclones, we're counting down the top 10 most devastating natural disasters of all time. Number 10. 1976 Tangshan earthquake.
Okay.
The Tangshan earthquake struck early in the morning of July 28, 1976. Most people were asleep when the earthquake jolted them awake with a 7.6 magnitude blast. Just as devastating was the 7.1 magnitude aftershock that rocked the city only 15 hours later. Though scientific earthquake prediction is in its nascent stages, nature often gives some advance warning of an impending earthquake. In a village outside of Tangshan, well water reportedly rose and fell 3 times the day before the earthquake. In another village, gas began to spout out the water well on July 12th and eventually caught fire. Animals also reportedly acted strange, with forest creatures running hurriedly to find a hiding spot. Once the quake was over, the survivors scrambled out into the open, only to see the entire city leveled. After an initial period of shock, the survivors began to dig through debris to answer the muffled calls for help, as well as find loved ones still under rubble. The death toll? Because China had a very inexact means of calculating, estimates range from 242,000 people. Number 9. 526 Antioch earthquake. The Byzantine Empire saw its very roots shaken, literally and figuratively, by this massive earthquake estimated at 7.0 magnitude with 18 months of aftershocks and 250,000 lives lost. The earthquake severely damaged the majority of buildings in Antioch, including Constantine's great octagonal church Domus Aurea, built on an island in the Orontes River. Strangely enough, the houses that lay closest to the mountain were the only ones to survive intact. Most of the damage, however, was a result of the fires that raged for many days in the immediate aftermath of the earthquake, made worse by the wind. One of the victims was Euphrasia, the patriarch of Antioch, who fell into a cauldron of pitch being used by wineskin makers. Tragically, only his head remained. The population of Antioch at this time was only 500,000, meaning that more than half of the citizens were killed in the terrible tragedy. Even 1,500 years later, this is still one of the most devastating natural disasters of all time. Number 8. 1920 Haiwan earthquake. The December 16, 1920 Haiwan earthquake, which registered a 7.8 magnitude on the Richter scale, caused rivers to change course and sent landslides pouring down mountains. The destruction of homes and granaries beneath collapsed hills subjected the initial survivors both to hunger and to exposure to windstorms and snowfall that immediately followed the quake. Vulnerable to bandit activity, many thousands roamed in a deformed landscape that was stripped of its roads and devoid of standing structures and familiar natural landmarks. Post-quake investigations unfortunately do not make it clear what portion of total fatalities may have been due to ground shaking versus landslides, or to starvation or exposure in the quake's aftermath, a subject of much debate. As if the earthquake itself wasn't enough, the following century ushered in a horrible quality of life for many of the people who call this region home. After decades of rebuilding, Haiwan is close to its former glory. Almost exactly 100 years later, this still stands as one of the deadliest natural disasters of the 20th century. 1737.
Damn, look like the ground still messed up.
The Hooghly River cyclone of 1737 is recorded as one of the deadliest natural disasters of all time. The cyclone, often referred to as the Calcutta cyclone, did widespread damage to the low-lying areas in the region. The cyclone caused a storm surge 30 to 40 feet in the Ganges, with a reported 15 inches of rain falling in a 6-hour period.
Wow.
The storm tracked approximately 200 miles inland before dissipating. In the city of Calcutta, the majority of structures, which were mostly made of mud with straw roofs, were destroyed, with many brick structures also damaged beyond repair. In the Ganges, 8 out of 9 boats were lost, along with most of their crews, and 3 out of 4 Dutch ships also went down. The total death count was 300,000 people. India's Ganges River Delta is prone to tropical cyclones. Additional cyclones with death tolls reported over 10,000 people struck more than 10 times over the next 2 centuries. They are particularly deadly because the Ganges River Delta is so densely populated. 1839 India cyclone. On November 25, 1839, a brutal cyclone slammed the bustling port city of Karinga in India, tied with 1737 Calcutta cyclone for the second deadliest 1,000 deaths. Strong winds and a 40-foot storm surge resulted in absolute chaos that went on for many weeks. Even after the initial shock, citizens were unable to find clean drinking water or food and perished of hunger and dehydration, though the port's in depth and the city was able to rebuild. Sadly, this was not the case for the second Karinga cyclone. The community, once nicknamed Hope Island, was reduced to rubble and was never fully rebuilt. Beyond the human tragedy, more than 20,000 shipping vessels were destroyed, thus ruining the commerce and economy of the city. Those who survived were forced to move on to new communities and attempt to start a new life. To this day, Karinga remains a sleepy fishing village. Tragically, the trauma of the disaster was too great to overcome for its residents.
Yeah, they're poor as heck.
2010 Haiti earthquake.
This game, you're not.
It's out there poor as heck, and they don't even know it. They don't even know they're that poor.
The top nation of 10 million people was already struggling with severe economic issues. When the earth prince, the country was entirely unprepared. On top of this initial shock, there were more than 50 aftershocks recorded in the coming days, and 30,000 commercial buildings had collapsed. Great policies by other countries and foreign conditions that increased the death toll.
Earthquake fucking people up.
316,000 fatalities resulting from the earthquake. 5 million people, much of the public and lower quality of life for the people of Haiti. The country, number 4, 1913.
Another cyclone.
Category 431.
Let me just kind of skip through this, man. I ain't know they were going to talk about it that long.
Effectively drowned a week. In all, changed. The Bola cyclone began with the help of a leftover tropical depression.
Cyclones and earthquakes.
The cyclone was river ready.
All right, who next?
Number 3, 1556.
Another earthquake.
Shanxi earthquake. Kurt feet deep that life hanging on the orders of a 9th century emperor. 40 of those tablets were broken during the earthquake. Number 2, 1887 Yellow River flood.
Okay.
The Yellow River is the second longest river in China, and due to its silt content, has been prone to flooding for the entirety of human civilization. As rain began to intensify in the first weeks of September 1887, it'll overflow 3 months, owing to the covering and commercial setback and lack. In total, second deadliest disaster in world history. Number 1, 1931 China floods. This disaster bears a resemblance to the previous Yellow River floods. China is an example of a very old civilization, and many of China's oldest cities are built near rivers. These rivers have flooded.
Okay. A flood. Number 1 natural disaster, but not only that, but a drought is even worse than that. I thought it was going to say a drought, because I think a drought is even worse. The greatest natural disaster from weather has to be a drought to me, or either a flood. You know what I'm saying? They 1 and 2, because, you know, flood can wipe everything out, but also a drought, man. One of the biggest things was a drought that happened in China, and it happened over, I think it was like over the course of a year. All the crops died, everything died. And a couple of weeks ago, we had the same thing in Mexico. There was a mean drought in Mexico. I don't know how it is now. Wow, time is passing by fast. That was like 2 months ago when this happened.
I joined Uber One because
I don't know
hate
how it is
delivery
now,
fees, and I need to save money
but
for when I get canceled. And I
it
don't
was
want to go back to
crazy. I
selling
don't know if they
pictures
got
of
some
my
water
feet.
now or
I mean,
what.
how
I'm
would
pretty
I
sure they
even do
did.
that? Find out at bignaturaltoast.com.
But we haven't been talking about
Join
that
Uber
much on the
One, or
U.S.
don't. I don't care.
That's another reason why I wanted to bring you a show
Tonight,
like this, where we talk
desperation
about number
spilling
world
into the
news,
streets of Nuevo
because
Leon,
you're not going to
Mexico,
hear about it.
as families rush to stock up on water. Some using buckets, others the pots from their kitchen. Anything and everything to collect the last drop.
Ya dejé mi trabajo por venir a juntar agua.
The northern state of Mexico is in one of the worst droughts in over a decade after 2 years of dismal rainfall.
See, you ain't getting rainfall like you supposed to.
Nearly the entire
Let me
region
switch up from
straddling the
that
US-Mexico border
to
is
put on
experiencing drought, according to the North American Drought
where they
Monitor.
not getting no water. I mean, where they getting too much water.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the United States will provide Pakistan with $10 million of aid for food security in the wake of the catastrophic flooding there. Blinken says the supplies will help farmers recover with such items as seeds and fertilizer. Now, the extreme flooding has claimed no more than 6 million lives. Our report now from Anna Korn.
In the scorching heat, a couple carry their listless child towards a packed wooden boat, ferrying sick villagers through the floodwaters. The mother grabs her daughter and finds a place to sit. The 8-year-old is burning up. She's got a high-grade fever and has become unconscious, explains her mother. Let's go, yells a villager. The mother then wets her daughter's brow with the very same water that has made her so sick. Pakistan's months-long catastrophic floods.
Now, the U.S. is sending millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars to Ukraine and still doing it. Can Pakistan get some of that money? I mean, if you're just gonna be, feeling sorry for people and want to give people U.S. dollars, it might as well be Pakistan too, because y'all done gave over $20 million to Ukraine. If that don't help, I don't know what will. You know what I'm saying? Evidently, it seems like you can give over $200 million, and it ain't gonna help Ukraine. Spread that money around, man. I think Pakistan definitely. Well, they already done it, but yeah, they definitely deserve that money. And at the end of the day, print more. You know what I'm saying? The shit is endless. So this is just a sad situation, man. Our prayers go for Pakistan, but that's not it though. You got Russia, you got Putin acting a fool. His people in Russia, they don't even trust him anymore. And like I said, his name is backwards. It's Two-Face. And now it's starting to come around. Now his people, Russian people, starting to see it. You know, this guy is, you want to talk about the Antichrist and somebody who's going to, cause millions of people to meet their demise, man. I'm looking at the kind of stuff this guy's doing. And if there is one, I see it. We had the same thing in Kentucky with the floods. Right now, there's about to be a huge hurricane in Miami. It might be Miami. It might be the Louisiana area. Right now, they got a emergency going on in Florida. They about to get hit with a hurricane.
That inundated 1/3 of the country, affecting 33 million people, are still causing unspeakable suffering. The monsoonal rains may be over, but the volume of stagnant water is now causing a health crisis, especially in Sindh, one of the worst hit provinces in the country's southeast, where cases of cholera, dengue, and dehydration have surged.
I have seen families and children consume the very flood water that they are surrounded by. And that is because they don't have access to any other water source.
As they reach the shore, it's a race against time. The nearest hospital is hours away by rickshaw, and her daughter's condition is worsening. These young mothers have found medical care, although their newborns barely have the energy to cry. They've come to the Nawab Shah Mother and Child Hospital, where the critically ill are taken to the resuscitation ward. A baby's chest slowly rises and falls as oxygen pumped through a tube helps this infant to breathe. Lying beside it, the body of another baby that didn't make it. For the doctors here, this is agonizing work. Up to a dozen children are dying each day from flood-related illness, which is unheard of in this small hospital. This girl has cholera, says Dr. Nazia. Their bodies go into shock. We try to rehydrate them with fluid they've lost. One of the 4 children sharing this bed appears to be going downhill rapidly. Heart monitors are placed on the chest of 5-year-old Ikra, who is severely stunted. Her heart is slowly beating, but her eyes glaze over. Minutes later, she dies. A nurse prepares her tiny body for an Islamic burial as her sister and grandmother weep outside. Of the more than 1,500 people who've died since June from Pakistan's climate change-induced catastrophe, more than 1/3 have been children. Millions upon millions remain homeless, having lost homes, crops, and livestock. Rani is one of them. She wonders if the waters will also take her youngest, 3-year-old Abbas, who is suffering from malaria. Death is a better option for us, she says. We accept it. One should not have to live like this. Anna Corin, CNN, Hong Kong.
People remember heartwarming ads. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance.
Sad, man. Sad as hell. But I gotta let you know what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
155-mile-per-hour winds. That is what Hurricane Ian is now producing.
Here it comes.
Bears down on Florida's coast. I'm John Berman, live in Tampa this morning. Brianna Keeler is in Washington. This is CNN's special live coverage of a storm that is getting more powerful by the minute. The National
Imagine that. You spend all your money on your house, and now they telling you, pack up your shit, take what you can. Anything you can't, leave it. Leave your house. Go somewhere.
Of a Category 5 storm, and it could still strengthen.
That's what they mean in life by like nothing's promised, man. You go to work, you pay your bills, you get you a house, something to call your own,
South of where I am,
and the weather can take it from you.
Area. The wind speed,
you know what I'm saying? Nothing's promised.
Concerns here. The storm surge, which the wind speed only
is as much as people hate to hear it is
devastating. Here
nothing is promised to you.
Anywhere from 4 to 6 feet.
Tomorrow's not even promised to you. Don't be emotionally attached to stuff. I got to tell myself that too. Don't be so emotionally and physically attached to stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because nothing's promised to you.
That hard here now, but it's been pouring for most of the night here, and it is
nothing's forever.
For the next
You're not even forever.
6 hours, they could see 1 to 2 feet of rain in this area. Just think of what that might mean. It might mean a storm surge up the Hillsborough River of 4 to 6
people
feet,
come and go.
And then a foot or two of freshwater flooding coming down that very same river. So this could be days.
The more you love a person, it don't make no difference because they gon'
1.5 million people under some kind.
They're not gonna be here one day, no matter how much you love a person. No amount of love is gonna keep a person here.
Up and down the coast.
So
their emergency services,
you know, just gotta remember that, man. People, you're made.
Hopefully,
you were born to die. You know what I'm saying?
Made your preparations. You've
no way around
where
it.
you need to go at this point.
Stop being so physically and emotionally attached to people.
Hunker down for the remainder of this storm, Brianna.
Let's head further afield there in Florida. The Florida Keys, for instance, getting battered now by Ian's outer bands. Major flooding already reported there. At least 2 possible tornadoes reported in South Florida, ripping trees right out of the ground. You can see one right here. Another damaging several planes and hangars at the North Perry Airport in Broward County, as you see in these pictures that have come to us. Small planes flipped. And take a look at these images from on board a U.S. government plane. This is that plane that flies through the eye wall of these monster storms. And here it is in the middle of this one. Stunning visuals that show as well this hurricane and all of the lightning that it is bringing with it as it sweeps over the Gulf on its path to Florida. John?
Right, we have live team coverage up and down the Florida coast, wherever we can get a signal as this storm bears down. Let's go first across the bay here to Brian Todd, who is standing by in St. Petersburg. Brian.
Right, John, you mentioned first responders not being able to come out when the winds get to about 40 miles an hour. Winds here about 30 miles an hour, the top gusts about 30 miles an hour. So we're not far from that point in the coming hours where officials are telling residents, if you're going to stay here, you've got to be ready for the fact that first responders are not going to be able to get to you once the winds get to about 40 miles an hour. We're close to that point here. We're standing here at an inlet right off Tampa Bay here in St. Petersburg, where, again, storm surge is going to be an issue. It could get 4 to 7 feet of storm surge here, which could push this water that you're seeing here right up over here to where I'm standing and moving to your right. This is Beach Drive over here in St. Petersburg. This whole area susceptible to flooding. This area, this county in Florida, Pinellas County, has some of the highest numbers of people who are under mandatory evacuation orders. Some 442,000 people in this county were under mandatory evacuation orders. Officials saying many people are heeding those warnings. John, a big test here is going to be of the sewage system here in St. Petersburg. That has been a huge issue in recent years because the sewage system for years was antiquated, got backed up when a major storm hit. In 2015, 2016, they had about 200 million gallons of sewage spill into the aquifers and other waterways when there was a major storm.
What?
Just this past December, they started to revamp and renovate that sewer system. So this is going to be a huge test of whether that sewer system in St. Petersburg is going to work. We did get word yesterday. The Public Works Administrator here in St. Petersburg is telling people, conserve water. Don't run your dishwashers. Don't run your washing machines. Limit your flushing and limit your showering when this storm is at its peak. That's going to be in the next 10 hours or so, as we know. So again, St. Petersburg not only going to face maybe severe flooding in these areas here behind me in downtown St. Petersburg, but also it's going to be a big test of whether that sewage system here, John, can hold up. So some anxious moments ahead in the next, I'd say, 10, 12 hours, John.
Yeah, I'll bet Brian's on 12 inches, maybe 24 inches of rain. It taxes the system so much across the state. I want to go right to Punta Gorda. Our Randy K is standing by there. The conditions there are deteriorating. That is where the storm might make landfall. And Randy, we just got word that the storm is getting even stronger. 155 mile per hour sustained winds.
We people of Florida, my heart goes out to you. Stay somewhere, stay dry, stay safe. If you have to leave your shit, you might be able to come back to it. But if you don't leave your shit and you stay there, you might just reach your demise altogether. You know what I'm saying? Don't be no fool. Anything can be replaced. Anything materialistic can be replaced. Your life can never be replaced. You see what I'm saying? Other news, like I said, Russia. People don't trust them. The shit, I guess you would say the shit kind of finally, starting to hit the fan now. That war is still going on over there. The Russia-Ukraine war is still going on. They trying to get him out of office. You know what I'm saying? They trying to get dude out of office. U.S. Embassy in Moscow tells U.S. citizens to leave the country immediately. Mm. And it seems like every week is something. Just what is that? A week ago, 2 weeks ago, Putin was threatening to use nuclear weapons, and Biden responded. But like I say, man, it's tension in the air. It's been that way. Keep your eyes open. I got you. I know I got mine. And anything that goes on, man, I'm taking notes on it, and I'm letting people know because they don't tell you about this stuff. Mainstream media, they tell you what they want you to know. They don't tell you everything, though. I got my eyes on that dude Putin, though. I feel like he can't be trusted, and he's sneaky. And just his name meaning Two-Face, that was all I needed to know. But I am back where it needs to be said. I guess I took a little hiatus, you know what I'm saying? But we back. You can look forward to this show every week. And I'll be back to you with next week because there will be new news. There will be more news to bring you. And I'll see y'all next week. This is Eddie Steady 214, my Southern Opinion. Thank you for watching. Leave your comments. Hit the like. Holler at y'all later.